for multiple statements under else, so we need these braces, yani curly brackets. Okay, and if there are more than one statements in a group, we call it compound statement. Yani a statement which is made up of a list of a statement. Okay, and then here is one example. You say if this is true, then run these two statements, otherwise run these two statements. Whatever these statements, it does not matter. It is explaining only in case of if true, do this, else do this. Okay, we can omit else part, yani we can use only if when we need it. For example, if there is only one case, you say there are many statements, and then you say if some number is equal 0, do this. Else whatever, no problem. But only in one case we have problem. So in that case we can put only if statement. If this Boolean expression is true, do this. There is no else part. Okay, no problem. Okay, for example, maybe in your program there is some comparison of weights. If weight is greater than ideal, then you suggest something. In else case, you don't suggest something. So there is no else case. So if can be used without else. But if there is else, there must be if. And you can nest them together. Any if else, if else, if else, if like this. Okay, this is called as nesting. Or you can have multiple if else statements. So how it is used? Here you have if this expression is true, do this. Inside else we have again if. So if this Boolean expression is true, do this, and so on. Okay, so else if, else if, else if, and the last one else, do this. Now you can see if you have a last one else, okay, no problem. If you remove else, no problem. Okay, it can finish at else if, no problem. Because an if can be without else, but if any else cannot be without if. So if you reverse, you see this if has this else, this if has this else, and this if has this else. So basically, if this statement is okay, none of the next will run. But if this is false, then it will check this. And if this is run, then none of the next will run. So only one of them. So in this group of statements, only one part will run, whichever is expression is true. So this kind of if else if is known as multi-way if else, or you can say nested. And here is one small program which inputs the value of GPA and decides what kind of distinction student has. So here we have if GPA is greater than or equal to 75, then we say first distinction. Now in the question he says greater than or equal to 75 first distinction, 3.5 to 3.75 is second. Okay, so you can have two conditions, but when it is not greater than or equal to, then it will go to else part. So second condition is useless. So here you can say else if GPA is greater than or equal to 3.5. And writing this and GPA is lesser than 3.5, this is automatic. Why? Because if this condition is false, then it will come here. Yani if GPA is lesser than 3.75, then it will go to this part. So it's useless to check it again. That is why I removed this. Okay. And similarly, else if GPA is greater than or equal to 3, third distinction. Else otherwise, if it is below 3, then there is no distinction. Okay. So this is how it works. If else if else if else if. Okay. Then there is switch statement. So in switch statement, there is one very important point. The controlling expression in switch must evaluate two character, integer, short, or byte. So if the controlling expression consists of float or double, it will not work. So here you have a switch case, switch inside switch. Basically, let us see some example. Okay, like this. So here is switch is keyword. Okay, and then here is the expression. Whatever expression, basically expression, this expression will have possible values. This, this. So possible values become the case label. Okay. So case first case, whatever value possible here, you have some statements, and at the end you have a break. Break means after running these statement, come here. The point after the switch case finishes. So if there is no match, then default works. Okay. So default, and then there is a colon. So after default, break is unnecessary because it will in any case come to this point because break is already last, yani default is already last case. And then here is one example. Okay, so this is simple math calculator where you can add, subtract, multiply, divide two numbers. So here we have input two numbers from user, and in the option and the option from the user. So based on this option, which is from option from user, okay, user enter either 1, 2, 3 or 4. So option is here as a switch. Okay, so option can have possible values 1, 2, 3 or 4. So case 1, add the number and display. Case 2, subtract the numbers and display. Case 3, multiply the numbers and display. Case 4, divide the numbers and display. And default case is wrong input. Okay, for any other case it will say wrong input. So this is switch. So default is not necessary. If you don't need, okay, you can remove it. And breaks are not necessary, but normally breaks are put so that you don't go to next case when one case is finished. Sometimes if you want to combine two cases, then you can remove the break to combine the two cases. But normally break is there. But if you remove break, it will not be a compiler error. It will be a logical error. Is it okay, gentlemen? Hello. Okay, then we have a Boolean expression. Okay, you know expression, mathematical expression is something which can produce a numeric value. Okay, that is mathematical expression. But if the value an expression can produce is either 0 or 1, true or false only, okay, then it is called as Boolean expression. Okay, so expression is general thing, Boolean expression is specific thing. And precedence means in mathematical expression or maybe Boolean expression, whatever, okay, which operator should be applied before others. So this is called as precedence. And this is something like preference, okay, priority. Okay, so here is the definition of Boolean expression. A Boolean expression is an expression that can either produce true or false. That's it. Okay, and when you use double equal sign, this is equality check. This is not assignment. It also produces either true or false. When you compare two things, this is lesser than this or not. So this is also produces true or false. So these are both are Boolean expressions. So in Boolean expressions, we have these operators. Okay, is equal, yani are they equal or not? not equal, greater than or equal, lesser than or equal. These are the 6 comparisons we normally use in programming. Then he says this equal is okay to use with the primitive data types, but with objects don't use it. And string is also class, and a variable of string type is also an object. So don't use equal with string, okay? Because with string you can have a method equals or equals ignore case. These two methods we studied in the lecture on strings. Okay, so these are better options than equal because equal works with primitive data types. And then so when you compare two strings, basically it will compare the ASCII ordering of the characters appearing. Okay, so what is ASCII order? So here maybe on one of the next slides will be there. So maybe in another chapter we put this ASCII table. Okay, every character has ASCII code. So if you write them in table, they have all some of the codes. Okay, so just like capital A starts with the 65 code and small a 96. Okay, and onward. So when they appear, alphabets appear in the string, so it will compare. Okay, wherever there is a difference, it means S1 minus S2. So if you compare like this S1 dot compare to S2, so it will just say check S1 minus S2. If the code of first is greater, second is smaller, then it will produce positive number, otherwise negative number. If they are equal, it will produce 0. So you can combine two expressions using and or maybe one you can negate also not. Okay, so these operators they are used with these Boolean expressions normally. So for example, if you have to check two conditions, when the minimum is lesser than result and the result is lesser than max, any result is between min and max, okay, then do something. So in mathematical form, you can write like this: result is greater than minimum, lesser than maximum. But in computers, you should write like this. This is computer form. This is mathematical form. And then, so when you evaluate the Boolean expression, they produce final result either as true or false. Okay, this is a truth table. So truth table means if there are two expressions, A, B, expression 1, 2, X, Y, whatever. So in case of AND, when you AND them, okay, it is true only when both are true. In all other cases, they are false. When you have OR condition between two expressions, okay, it is false only when both are false. So if you remember these two lines, others are okay. Not is just negation, any opposite. If it is true, not expression is false. If it is false, not expression is true. So this is called as truth table. Hello, are you with me? So there can be some question on truth table also. And then short circuit evaluation. What is short circuit evaluation? Okay. Short circuit means when you are comparing, when you are evaluating two expressions and there is AND between them. So when evaluating two Boolean expressions joined by AND, if the first expression evaluates to false, then false and anything is false, so it means that it will not check the second expression. Why? Because it is useless. You see here. So If you have even one false, one of them false, one of them false, answer is false. Similarly, in R, if one of them is true, answer is true. So what happens when you have and if first condition is false, second condition, no matter whatever, it will not change the result. Okay, so compilers do what? In case of and, they will check only first condition. If it is false, they will not check the second condition. If it is true, okay, then they will of course check the second condition, because true and true is different, true and false is different. Okay, but if it is false, first is confirmed false, then false and anything is false. Okay, that is why they don't check the second expression. Similarly, happens with the R. Okay, if first expression is true in R case, whatever second expression, overall expression is true. But if it is false, first expression is false, then you need to check the second. So this is called as a short circuit evaluation, or you can call it lazy evaluation also. Okay, this is just like lazy means lazy men do what? For example, lazy people, uh, they will avoid extra work. Okay, so lazy people are not always bad people, so lazy people can be smart ones. Okay, so same here, this lazy evaluation try to avoid the second expression to be evaluated. Then okay, sometimes it is also good to be lazy here. Like for example, you say if you are asking about number of kids and total toys available, okay, then you can check, for example, if kids are not equal to 0 and toys divided by kids is greater than equal to 2, then do something. Okay, now for example, if you check this and this is 0, then false and false is always false. Okay, it will not check for the second condition. But if it is true, okay, then it is not 0, it is some positive number or negative number, whatever. Okay, then it will do this. So basically you are also avoiding a divide by 0. So if kids are 0, so don't run this expression. Okay, because this expression will be false, it will not run this. So sometimes it is very useful. Then precedence, what is precedence? Which operator should be applied first? Okay, if the precedence is exactly same, then associativity comes into action. Okay, so for two same precedence operators, associativity rule will define which one to group first. Okay, in this table, maybe you cannot remember everything, but at least you can remember the ordering. Like for example, the precedence is highest in this area, low, 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 this is lowest. Okay, so when you have a mathematical expression, you evaluate everything. For example, if you say x is equal to this expression, okay. So first of all, you evaluate everything and then you will assign it to x. Then x is equal to, and equal has the least precedence. So whatever operators involve equal, they are least precedence. Okay. Similarly, you can see when you have these parentheses, something inside parentheses is evaluated first of all. So this evaluation has any parentheses and indexing, they have a highest precedence. Similarly, if there is plus plus and minus minus, it is the next thing. Okay, normal arithmetic operators are here. Okay, and this plus minus is positive and negative number, and this is a comparison. These are comparison somewhere in the middle, and binary operators and are not. Okay, they are in this half. Okay. So I will not ask you if this has better than this, but if I say, for example, this there are some options, and if I say which of the following has lowest precedence, okay, the lowest part is something which is basically involves equal. And if I have a list of some option and say what has highest precedence, so maybe some of these, maybe if there are some parentheses or maybe plus plus minus minus, so something like this. And these mathematical and other operators, they are somewhere in the middle. Okay, now if you have, for example, x is equal to a plus b plus c. So plus has same precedence, or maybe if there is a 1 plus and 1 minus, they are same. Okay, in that case, you will decide according to the associativity. So plus minus, they have same, but in this case, you will go from left to right. So a plus b before minus c. Okay, so from the left to right, you will do first a plus b, then answer minus c. So this is how it works. So associativity is used when there are two operations with the same, exactly same precedence. Then associative will be decide between which part will be evaluated first. Then you can fully parenthesize the expression to avoid any confusions. Okay. If you don't fully parenthesize, then these rules will decide how to evaluate the expression. Okay, then binding. What is binding? The association of operands with their operators. This is called as binding. Okay, and that's it. This lecture is over. So is it okay, gentlemen?
Yes, Doctor, yes.
Okay, loops are used when you need to repeat some instructions. Okay, so they are put inside the loops. In C and in Java and many languages, we have while, do, while, and for loops. Okay, in while loops, okay, so just like this. So in while we have a keyword here, and then inside these parentheses we have expression, and then there is only one statement, it goes here. If there are multiple statements under it, then you use curly brackets. Okay, so here we have a while keyword, Boolean expression. If there are multiple statements inside, you put curly bracket. Okay, now in this table, okay, print the multiplication table of n using while loop. Okay, and for example, n you can ask from the user or maybe fix a number n. Okay, and then you print the table how starting from I is equal to 1, I is less than equal to 10, I plus plus. Inside the while loop, you will print n multiplied by I is equal to ni. Yani this will produce the row of a table, this one. Okay. So because you are going through I is equal to 1 to 10. Okay. So this is I, basically this. So every time 5 multiplied by I is equal to 5i. 5 multiplied by I is equal to 2. So 10. 5 multiplied by 3 is equal to 15. So it will print like this. So this while loop, okay, any loop, it has three parts. One is initial value of some variable, and then check condition, and then we have increment or decrement, and there is some statement which is basically body of the loop. Okay, now the problem is if you don't have increment and decrement, if I remove this line, okay, then this loop will become infinite loop. It will never break. Why? Because I will be 1 and it will remain always 1. So if you remove this I plus plus, so it will never come to 10 and it will never break the loop. So be careful, when there is no increment or decrement, the loop becomes infinite. Is it okay? So maybe if I ask you a question and there is some loop and loop tries to print something after finishing the loop. For example, it can be like this. I have a loop here, okay. After you finish the loop, I have a statement here and I ask you what is the answer, okay. But if this loop is infinite, you will never come to this. Okay, first check the loop should not be infinite. If it is infinite, you will never come to this. There will be nothing, no output. Okay, then we have do while statement. In do while, again, if there is only one statement, you can avoid these curly brackets. Otherwise, do is here, one statement here, while is here, and then you have a Boolean expression here. And because this looks like a while, and just to distinguish it from a while, you put a semicolon here. This is lazim, okay, necessity. If it is multiple statements, do here, and inside curly brackets, we have statements, okay, and while is the keyword, and here we have expression, and at the end semicolon. Okay, so one of these statements should increment or decrement, yani change the controlling expression. Okay, here is the same program but using do while. Okay, again you need to initialize it with I with 1, and then you say do this while I is lesser than equal to 10. So condition becomes here, semicolon also here. Okay, so what you do, you are just going to print one row of the table and then you say I plus plus. So this is increment. Okay, so same program, and this is same loop. In do while shape, it will be like this. Okay, definitely there will be one question on converting between the loops. So you will be given small any part of the loop. Okay, maybe in while, do while, and change it to another type, maybe for while, do while, whatever. Okay, so you should be identifying these three parts. What is initialization, what is increment, and what is the condition, and what is the other statement. So put them in proper order. That's it. There is no rocket science.
Doctor,
Don't tell me this question is very difficult. Okay,
Doctor,
whatever the statements, just look for what is initialization, what is increment, decrement, and what is condition. Put them in proper place. Yes.
Doctor, the only difference in the body of the loop, right?
Yeah, in while and do while there is difference only in the body of the loop, but for loop is much different.
Uh,
In for, where is for loop? Okay, for loop, we have a initialization inside this parenthesis, then there is a semicolon, then expression here, then there is a semicolon, and increment, decrement here, and then body here. So for loop is totally different. So here you can see, for example, if you have for loop, maybe for the same program, do we have? Yes. So for the same program, for in these parentheses, we have this is initialization, this is the condition, and this is a increment. Okay, and the statement which prints one row of the table goes here. If I give you this for loop, convert it to do while loop, just check the initialization. Okay, put it here. Second thing is condition, put in here. Third thing is increment, decrement, put inside this do while. Okay, and the statement itself goes here. So it's only, different places. Okay, in a while and do while, there is one difference. In while, you have a condition in the beginning. And if this condition, in case this condition is false in the beginning, while loop may not run even one time. But do while, it has condition at the end. It means at least once it will run. Okay. So when you need some loop to run at least once, just like for example, login screen should appear at least once. Because if he enters correct username password, okay, it will disappear. But if he enters wrong, then it should reappear. So login screen should appear at least once. So it should be just like a do while. Okay, but some of the things, okay, they may not appear even once. Maybe so. The while loop runs either zero or zero to n times. Okay, do while runs 1 to n times, and at least once. Okay. Similarly, in for loop, you have any starting point. Okay, and it will run like this. For example, for number is equal. This is initialization, and then it will check the condition. If it is true, it will run this statement, and then it will increment and decrement. And if this condition is still true, so it will make a loop like here. So this initialization is run only once in the beginning, just like for example, if you see here in do while, okay, this initialization will run only once. It is not inside the loop. So same here. It shows inside the body, but it is not basically run multiple times. It is run only one time. Okay, then okay, in for loop, for example, here is initialization, okay. But if you have multiple initialization, for example, if you want to say x is equal to 1 and y is equal to, you can use comma, okay. How comma? Like for example, if I say for here and initial value, for example, maybe I can say I starts from 0, comma, sum starts from 0. So multiple initialization, and then you can put semicolon, condition, semicolon, increment, decrement, and other things. Okay. So multiple initialization can be there using a comma separator. Okay, here is one example of the nested loop. Okay, nested loop means a loop inside a loop. Okay, so in this loop, for example, you have a for loop starting from here to here. You have a one for loop, and inside this for loop, you have another for loop. Okay, so this for loop has two things: one this and one this statement. Okay, this statement, first statement is itself a loop. Okay, so you use, for example, for I is equal to 1, is it less than 10? Yes, it will go inside and print what? For j is equal to I, any 1. Is j greater than equal to 1? Yes, j minus minus, print this. So first time it will print just one static. Okay, then it will go to new line. Okay, then increment this and run this statement again, check I is equal to 2. Okay, so this time it will print 2 statics, and then a new line. Next time it will print 3 statics. Next time it will print 4 statics. So next time it will print 5 statics, and so on. So basically, the outer loop will decide row number. You see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And inner loop will decide the number of statics. So this is called as a nested loop. Okay. So nested loops, they are basically loops inside a loop. So it is very common to use the nested loops. Okay, for new programmers like you, it can be confusing and difficult idea, but it is very commonly used. So now, if I say, for example, if there is a loop, for example, you say for I is equal to from 1, I is less than 10, for example. and I say I plus plus. Okay, and inside this I have another for j is equal to 1, j is less than 5, 1 to 5. Okay, this is 1 to 10. Okay, and j plus plus. Okay, here is one statement. Okay, so how many time it will run? Because outer loop runs from 1 to 10 yani 10 times, and each time inner loop runs 1 to 5 yani 5 times. Okay, so 10 multiplied by 5, it will run 50 times, yani this statement will run what? 50 times. Okay, so you just run how many time outer multiplied by how many time every time inner. Is it okay, gentlemen? Hello. Okay, lecture number 10, it has problems, and the solution of these problems is available in these notes. Just make it like this or this, and you have programs here, so you can read and try programs. I don't need to explain this because solution is there. Next, introduction classes. Okay, in this, classes are main important thing in object-oriented programming languages. And in Java, if you talk about every program is a class, all helping software are classes, all programmer defined types are classes. Okay, if I ask you here, all methods are classes, no, the false. Why? Because methods are part of classes, methods are not classes itself. Okay, and then how to define classes? Actually, we have already used one of the class, string class, and we used its method scanner. Okay, and scanner class also both. Here is one example to define your own class. So this is very important. You should try it. Try to run it, make changes, play with it. Okay. In this class, we have some member variables, and then for this class we have this constructor. Okay, student, same name, same name. Okay, and it receives 3 parameters, and you set these parameters to these values. Similarly, if you have a printer to print student data, it just prints the 3 things in proper form. And then to get the percentage value, for example, because CGPA is in not in percentage, it is out of 4. Okay, so to convert it to percentage, you can student GPA multiplied by 100 divided by 4. This will give you the percentage. Okay, now this is the definition of class. Inside this, there is another method we have main. Inside main, we are going to create the objects of this class. So because this constructor I have with the 3 parameters. So student s1 is equal to new student, first parameter ID, second name, third GPA. So we can create object like this, another object like this. Okay. So if I ask you to create one object, so it should be like this. And then if you want to call any method, so object name, whatever, s1 dot whatever method name, it will call the method. Okay, so it will print the data. For percentage, you can use, for example, percentage is equal to object name dot get percent. It will print the percentage. So this will print the data, all data, and this will print the percentage. So in the exam, maybe, for example, if I ask you to, I will give you incomplete definition of this, and you need to, for example, write the constructor, write this method, write this method, or maybe create an object, one object only, maybe two objects, whatever, and then display the data and maybe display the percentage also. So this example gives you very nice idea of what are the classes, what are constructors, what are member methods, and how can you create objects of the class, how can you call method of the object. Okay, so this example is very important. Okay, all the next things are basically explanation of this. So primitive data types, they have character, float, integer, double. Okay, they have single piece of data, but class data types, they have multiple piece of data, and also there are methods. Just like, for example, in this example, you can see these three data items and 1, 2, 3, 4 methods. Okay, so when you create an object of a class, each object has a, okay, same data members and same methods. Okay, not different methods, not different fields. Okay, but values can be different. Like for example, student one here, okay, his name is Ahmed, but student two name is Khalid. So fields are three, same fields, but values are different. Okay, and similarly, Ahmed and Khalid both have, both objects have all of these methods, same methods. So these are important things here in this lecture only. Okay, then new operator. Okay, this new operator basically creates the object. Okay, if you are only going to declare, you mean not define, just declare, then you can use class name and variable name semicolon. But if you want to create an object, not only declaration but creation of the object, okay, then you need a new keyword. And you can combine these two, and create the new object and assign it to a variable of that class. So we have already done this using a string class, and we already know how to use it. Okay, in this method, for example, public void my method, here is whatever, okay, then you have curly brackets and here is some statements. So this one line, this is basically heading of the method, and between these curly brackets, this is the body. Okay, so if I give you some statement like this, okay, this is what class variable dot my method and semicolon, so this is method call. But if I give you a statement like this, public void my method, and there is no semicolon, there is no data provided here, nothing. Okay, so then this is heading of the method. Okay. Okay, Java files should be same name as class name. Okay, and methods are two types. Methods which return nothing, they are called void methods, and other methods they return a value. Okay, so in the header of the heading of the method, it is very clearly mentioned what is the return type. If it is void, void. If it is not void, then whatever. Similarly, inside main, the heading of main is like this: public static void main. It means it does not return any value. And then return statement. Okay, return statement is a common statement. It can be used to return, yani stop the method. Okay, but it can return value only for the methods which has some return type. If it is void, you cannot use like this. You can use only return and semicolon for void methods, but if the method returns something, then return and some value here. For void methods, you can use return semicolon to break and finish the method on some case. Then okay, if some method returns a value, okay, then you can use it with the equal sign. If it does not return, and if it is a void method, then you can use it in an independent line. Because there is no return value, you cannot use it. Okay, so it is like this solo line. But if the value is returned, then maybe you need to save the value in something. Okay, what are local variables? Local variables are the variables which are defined inside a method or maybe in a method argument. Okay, so they are local variables. And in Java, there are no global variables. Okay, so life is easy. In this example, for example, you can see this I, N, C, these are in the argument list, so they are local variables. Okay. Similarly, inside main, we have this string args. Args is a local variable. Inside main, there is S1, S2, they are local variables. Inside main, there is P, this is also local variable. So a local variable means a variable which is inside the method definition or inside the argument list. Is it okay? Hello. Okay, I will continue. If you have another class, you can leave. But I will continue just to finish it. This is the last one. Encapsulation. Encapsulation means just like a capsule which combines many medicines inside one container. Encapsulation means basically you are going to put data and methods into the single unit. And data and methods both inside one unit. This is called as encapsulation. And so this encapsulation basically provides you one information which is called as information hiding. So information hiding is the practice of separating how to use class from details of its implementation. Okay, now if you have a class, okay, just like for example in my previous I had student class, okay. So in student class, I have a constructor, I have a print method, I have a get the percentage method. So you only need to know what methods are provided so that you can call those methods and use my class. Okay. So this is information hiding. You have access to all the public methods and you don't know the details of the implementation. This is information hiding. Encapsulation means data plus methods into single unit. This is encapsulation. ADT means abstract data types. Whatever class you make, it is abstract data type. API means application programming interface. It means the class and its description and its methods. How can you use them? Okay, these are access modifiers. Public access modifier means something is available outside the class, directly accessible. Private means it will block the access, forbid the access outside. Only member methods can access that private thing. From outside, no. Here is one example, and it clarifies, for example, this amount is public and ID is private. So inside main, you can see this is one class, this is another class, okay. Main class is here, okay. So if I access amount directly, where is it? It is accessible. But if I access a private ID, okay, battery is about to finish. Okay, no problem. I need few minutes. So if you say whatever this object name dot ID, okay, if you directly access the ID, because ID is private, it is not accessible. But amount is public. Yeah, this data dot amount is equal to something. So you are directly accessing the amount. It is accessible. Why? Because it is public. Similarly, all the methods which you allow to use from outside class, they are public, and all the methods which you don't want outsider to use this, they are private. And maybe these private methods, they are only used by the member methods. خلاص